I hope you found those videos useful. Whether an apprentice is watching them or a foreman who's been roofing for 10 years, you can almost always learn something from those. Next, we're going to move on to your orientation checklist, which hopefully you already have out and you are making notes on and writing questions down. Go to the first page. There's going to be check boxes at the top. Don't worry about those for now. Just follow along with me as I go through everything on this checklist. So, about the roofing industry. It is very tough and grueling work. It is a labor-intensive job and you will work hard all day long. It's going to be outside, so when it's hot, it's going to be pretty hot, and when it's cold, it's going to be pretty cold. Thankfully, you're going to be in Colorado, which you're going to have about 300 days of sunshine, so it should be nice most of the time. That being said, this is going to be hard work, and we're going to be very transparent about it. So please know what you're getting into and know that this is what you want to do. It is a great industry for consistent work. We work all year round, especially within the commercial department. There are no shortage of jobs. If you learn the trade and you work hard, you will get promoted. We will see you advance in the company. Something I like to tell people is that we don't need apprentices. We need experienced roofers. If you're coming in as an apprentice with no experience, that's fine. We're going to train you. But just know that our goal is not for you to stay in your current position and to keep making what you're making. We want you to become an experienced roofer, and we want to pay you for it. Objectives in order of importance. First is safety, second is quality, third is efficiency. We will review these at every company safety meeting, which happens once a month on a Thursday. You'll learn more about that later. Make sure that when you're on site, you're doing these in order when you're making decisions. Do not sacrifice quality for efficiency. Do not sacrifice safety for quality, right? Make sure you're going in that correct order. I want to be clear that if someone gets hurt on site, that is the worst thing for both you and for Tylee. If someone gets hurt for Tylee, we're going to have our insurance rates go up, workers' comp claims go up, we're going to have to pay for a workers' comp claim, and we're going to be out a worker. That's really bad for us. Even if your job might be going under budget and you're tempted to work faster at the expense of safety, it's not worth it. It never is. On your side, you don't want to be left with an injury that could affect you your whole life and probably put you out of work for several days or even months. Bad weather days. You will not work if it is too wet, cold, icy, or windy. Those are either going to make your job really difficult on site or they're just not safe to have you out there. Check in with your supervisor to see what the plan is, either the day before or the morning of. Check in early enough to still arrive to work on time. If you're supposed to be at the job site at 7 a.m. and you send a text at 6:45, that's too late. Communication, send a text if you need a response within a few minutes. Only use that for ASAP type questions or comments, things that you need. Everyone at Tylee responds that way. If I right now had my cell phone go off and send me a text notification, I would know that I'd need to pause this right now and answer it. So use it sparingly. Email is our preferred method of communication, and that's if you need a response within a few hours. If you're sending an email to someone at the office, you're probably going to get a response faster than that. Call if it's a complex topic. Rather than texting or emailing back and forth, give a phone call if it's necessary. Finally, use pictures often to quickly convey issues. Rather than describing what's going on site or with a piece of equipment or a tool, just take a picture of it and you can either text or email that to whoever needs to know. An important note is that while you're on site, pictures really come in handy, both for tracking progress and for covering Tylee's liability. On the front end, if you get to a project and you see something that we should document, maybe damage to a site or just something that looks important, it's great for us to get that information on the front end. Let's say that you take a picture of a damaged AC unit when you get on site. Tylee hasn't done any work yet, you're just walking the site, you see damage, you document it. At the end of the job, if someone were to say, Tylee damaged this AC unit, we would have proof right there with a date and time that says, when we got to the job, this is what we saw. It wasn't us. Similarly, you can take pictures at the end of a job to document, one, the awesome work that you did, that you laid out a whole roof or roofing details, and two, you can say, this is what it looked like when we left. If there's any damage to the roof or any surrounding equipment, we know that it wasn't us because it looked good when we left. Check-in arrival time. That's usually between 6 and 7 a.m. That will depend on your supervisor and what job you're on. So while this can vary, just check in with your supervisor and they're gonna know what the plan is. Payment. You clock in each day with the app called T-Sheets. The logo's down there. Download the app with that logo. We should already have an account set up for you, and if not, you can talk to whoever is managing your orientation. Your username is gonna be your last name dot your first name. Your password will be all capitals, TRI, all lowercase, your last name, and the number 1. If that's not working for you, check in with someone. Again, as I mentioned with the payday memo, your first check is 2 weeks after the first Friday that you work, and after that, you will be paid weekly. With T-Sheets, if you don't have a phone, or maybe you just don't want to use T-Sheets on your phone, your foreman can clock you in and out each day. So make sure that you check in with your supervisor when you get to site. They'll clock you in, they'll clock you out for any lunch break, and then at the end of the day, make sure that they clock you out. If you have any errors on your timesheets, that's what that notes section is for. Someone will check that every couple days and definitely once a week. So if you forget to clock out, forget to clock in, just put a note there and someone's gonna take care of it. At the end of the week, make sure that your hours are correct. And if they're not correct, send an email. For the job IDs, that's one of the most important parts of using T-Sheets. If you click on that, you'll see a list of job IDs. You don't have to know what they all mean, but you should ask your foreman what you should clock into. This helps us keep track of job budgets, and it's really important that you get it right. Initial review. Your supervisor will review your skill level over time. For apprentices, this is usually between 30 and 90 days. Most likely you'll get a review at 90 days. This is about how long it takes for you to get really useful roofing. Your pay rate can be altered to better fit your experience level. If you're coming into the apprentice position or the journeyman position with a fair amount of experience, we'll use this period of time to really know how much you should be paid. If you're starting with no experience, you can move up pretty quickly within 90 days, and if your foreman gives good feedback, you'll likely receive a raise. Next is tool check. Review the tool list and circle the tools that you need if you haven't already. Tools provided by Tiley Roofing will be payroll deducted. You choose how much we deduct, but 10 is the minimum. All tools returned in good condition will be reimbursed, and any tools returned in poor condition or not at all will be deducted. This means that if at the beginning you got tools provided by Tiley, and then let's say later on that you found tools through some other means, you can return the Tiley tools as long as they're in good condition, and we'll just refund that amount and you can keep the tools that you have. You will need steel toe boots on all commercial job sites. Finally, get a safety badge that looks like this. It is Why I Work Safe, and make sure to wear it at all times. This is a reminder both for you, all the people on your job site, and any of our clients that you interact with, why we work safe. When you see someone else's safety badge, you should think, why do I work safe? And put that into practice. A lot of clients like seeing why we work safe too. Professionalism. Please never curse, yell, lay down, or sleep while on the job. Some of these might seem obvious, but I do want to highlight laying down or sleeping while on the job. While you might have worked hard all day and you're on your lunch break and you think, I deserve a nap, I can't have you doing that while on the job site. If we had a general contractor or one of our clients or an inspector come up to the job and see a Tiley employee sleeping or laying down, they're going to assume that you've probably been doing that most of the day, even if you haven't. So make sure not to do any of those things. Most importantly, show up on time and be ready to work. This is the most important thing in your apprentice position. If you can show up on time to the job site and have a good attitude while you're there, your foreman is going to love you. The more you learn on the job, the more experience you're gonna gain, the better roofer you're gonna be, and the more we're gonna pay you. We need our apprentices to be reliable, show up when they're supposed to show up, and have a good attitude on site. Call ahead if you'll be absent or late to work. We understand that things happen, and we're always going to be flexible with you if you respect our time. Contact your supervisor, that's your foreman, the HR director, or me if you're experiencing any kind of problems while on site. I won't be able to give you a shop tour, but the most important thing on there is that tools and materials must be signed in and out. You'll likely not be getting any tools or materials from the warehouse, but if your foreman ever wants you to do that, you have to make sure to sign them in and out. There's both a computer and a checklist that are out in the warehouse. You can use either of those to sign in and out tools and equipment. Safety. This will be a quick review for the safety quiz that's going to come after this. New guys are the most likely to be hurt, regardless of experience. You have a lot going on in your head. You're at a new job with new people in a new environment. There's a lot of things that are going to distract you from being safe on site. So whether you're fresh to the roofing industry or you've been roofing for over a decade, you are the most likely to get hurt statistically, and we want you to remember that. So for about the next 30 to 90 days, have that thought go through your head a couple times a day. I'm the most likely to get hurt. What am I doing about it? Ladders must have 3 rungs above the eave, and they must always be tied off. If this is the eave of the roof, the edge, and this is your ladder, you need 1, 2, 3 rungs above that eave. There's a foot in between each rung. To tie off a ladder, there's going to be a cord toward the top. You need to make sure that's fastened to the roof somehow. Always use GFCI, that stands for Ground Fault Circuit Interrupter, outlets and attachments. We'll talk about why later. Ensure that all electrical cords are not frayed. You know how you bend a cord back and forth several times, or maybe just an old cord? That wrapping on the cord starts to peel away and you can see the wires underneath. Don't use a cord if you can see the wires. That wrapping is insulation. If that comes off, you can get an electrical shock. Always use fall protection as required and check your harness daily for damage, or even several times a day. If you're ever taking off your safety equipment, whenever you put it back on, you should give it a once over because you never know what happened while you took your eyes off of it. Always wear safety glasses and gloves. Both of these should be provided on your first day. If you need a new pair, you get 1 free pair each month. Always wear hard hats when overhead danger is present. You're not always going to have overhead danger, but it's just best to wear a hard hat while on site. Never use equipment you're not trained on, and almost more importantly, comfortable with. You might know how to use a tool or a piece of equipment, but if you're having an off day, if you're feeling uncomfortable, you have that gut feeling, that's most often when an accident's going to happen. If that happens, ask someone else on your crew for help, which is the next point. Ask coworkers for help when needed, even if it's going to take longer. Even if they might give you a little bit of grief. Hey, didn't we teach you how to do that yesterday? Come on, don't you know how to do that? They mean well, and they'll know that that's the best way to be safe, is for them to help you out. Finally, alert your supervisor, your HR director, or the chief of operations of any unsafe or unprofessional behavior. Just because something's happening on site doesn't necessarily mean that Tylee wants that to happen. If you're seeing something that makes you uncomfortable, whether that's unsafe or unprofessional behavior, let someone in the office know. Chances are we're not going to like it either, we just don't know about it. Make sure that you take a little bit of time to update your notes and questions section. Whether you want reminders on anything that I just said, anything important that you want to write down, or if you have questions that you want your orientation leader to address with you, go ahead and take a moment to fill that out now. All right, next, go ahead and grab your safety quiz and fill that out. Do the questions to the best of your ability. We don't care so much that you get everything right. We just want to know that you've tried and that we can correct things later on. Now, in your orientation checklist, there were these nice pictures in here. They have a lot of notes on them, and they're going to give you a great visual indication of a lot of the safety things that I'm going to talk about while we review this quiz. So make sure that you have both your safety quiz that's already completed and then the visuals from your orientation checklist. We're going to work through the visuals first, and then we're going to notice which questions correlate when we review the quiz together. Feel free to make any notes, and as we go and correct these questions, make a note if you got something wrong and highlight the correct answer. First, we see what commercial warning lines look like. Warning lines indicate where you do and do not need to have fall protection on. So that would be like your harness with an anchor. If you're between the edge of the roof and the warning line, you're going to need fall protection. If you're on the inside of the warning lines, you do not need fall protection. Warning lines need to go up to a maximum of 39 inches. That's a magic number throughout a lot of this quiz. We're going to talk about that. The minimum is 34 inches. You want it to go up about hip height and not go about lower than your knees. The whole goal in having warning lines is for people to not get clotheslined and to not have a trip hazard or maybe something that they can just walk over. Finally, how far away from the roof edge can the warning line be? 6 to 10 feet. There's a question in there that'll spell it out. If you have mechanical equipment on site and you can't remember when it's 6 and when it's 10, just remember 10 feet. If there's no mechanical equipment, it's 6 feet from the roof edge. Next, we see someone with their harness on. It shows that their anchor point needs to be center of the back and shoulder level. And it shows an arrow because fastening directly above you is the safest way to attach your harness. Obviously on a roof, that's going to be pretty hard to do. So the next best thing you can do is the picture to the right of that. You can see that the worker has their harness properly attached center of the back shoulder level, and they're fastened to an anchor that's free and clear of any tools, material, debris, or other people. That anchor can only have one person attached to it, and it needs to be capable of holding 5,000 pounds or more. You might be thinking that's a lot, so I gave you a little bit of math to help break it down for you and so that you can work backwards on site when you see other weight limits. If you have a 250-pound roofer standing on a weight scale, it's going to read 250 pounds. If they jump up and land on the weight scale, it's going to read more than 250, and that's because of gravity. Whenever you're fastened to an anchor, it needs to not just support your body weight, but your body weight falling. So gravity, we call 10. So 250 times 10, that's 2,500 pounds. Then you have a safety factor of 2, putting you at 5,000 pounds. Next, we have a roof diagram that gives you all kinds of layers that are in a flat roof. Those are very interesting and great. I hope you learn them someday. But right now, I just need you to know what a parapet is. It's circled. It's that perimeter wall that goes around the roof. Those need to be 39 inches tall or higher to be used as fall protection. What that does is prevents workers from falling off if they were to bump into that wall. If the walls are too low, that just becomes a trip hazard and it's not going to prevent you from falling. If it's taller than 39, even better. There's another picture for floor and deck hole covers. It's pretty self-explanatory. They need to be secured, clearly marked, and capable of supporting 2 times the weight that will be on it. You usually don't want to set tools, materials, equipment, people on holes. That's why you need to indicate that it's a hole. In that example on the right, it's probably secured, it's probably capable of supporting 2 times the weight. It's got 2x4s and plywood on top, seems pretty sturdy, but it's not labeled. You need to clearly mark that it's either a hole or a cover. Use a big Sharpie, use spray paint, use tape, use whatever you need to label that it's a hole or cover. Next, we have GFCI outlets and attachments. Again, that stands for Ground Fault Circuit Interrupter. This has to be used on all power tools on site. What this does is prevents power surges from the job site power source from affecting your tools. And on the opposite side, if your tool starts drawing too much power, it's not going to blow a breaker on site. Instead, it's going to pop right in the middle where that circle and line are. This protects both you and your tools and the job site's power.